Picture this. You're in a big planning meeting, right?
Yeah.
Everything's crucial. And then you have that employee, the one, their mind is like 3 years ahead of your roadmap, and they pitch something. It sounds amazing, genuinely exciting, but
Yeah.
let's just say it's functionally impossible.
Oh, yeah. The budget's maybe 3 times your entire operating expense. The tech doesn't exist yet. I know exactly who you mean.
Exactly. And that feeling, that immediate gut reaction to just slam the brakes.
Yeah.
Give them that reality check. It's strong. It feels like the responsible thing, doesn't it?
It absolutely feels responsible. But, that very instinct, that push for, let's be practical right now, well, a lot of leadership thinking suggests that's kind of the silent killer of real innovation in organizations.
The silent killer.
Yeah. And that exact tension, that's why we're doing this deep dive today. We're looking at some key bits from Raising Dreamers: autonomy, guidance, and experimentation.
Right. And this text, it's like a shortcut, isn't it? It gives you, the listener, a kind of architecture, a way to actually support those super imaginative people on your staff without, sinking the ship with totally wild projects.
Precisely. So our mission here is to pull out the core philosophy behind this approach. And crucially, the 3 really practical strategies it suggests. For you, the learner, this is all about getting your head around a pretty major shift in thinking.
The shift from just managing what's happening now
To actually strategically growing what could happen, cultivating that future potential.
Okay, let's dig in. Where do we start? What's the foundation?
It starts with this core idea, this sort of foundational rule they lay out. They call it leadership rule, #110. Sounds a bit formal, but the idea itself is, well, it's pretty radical, actually.
Rule #110. Okay, what is it?
Simple phrase: don't wake them up, raise them up.
Don't wake them up. Raise them up. Okay.
Yeah. And that phrase, it hits right at that common failure point we were just talking about. The source points out that, look, most leaders, when faced with huge ambition, they instinctively react with constraint.
Right. You jump to the budget, the timeline, the immediate goals for this quarter.
Exactly. You feel like you have to inject logic, impose limits, force it to fit right now. But the problem is, the moment you deliver that harsh reality check, you're not just stopping one impractical idea. You're sending a much bigger, a much more damaging message.
You're basically teaching them that thinking big gets punished.
That's it.
That the safe ideas, the small tweaks, those are what get rewarded. And that just guarantees you stay incremental, not transformative.
Precisely. So the critical instruction here, the real shift, is to actively fight that instinct to just extinguish the flame of imagination. Your job as a leader, it sort of changes.
From gatekeepers.
To maybe more like an architect of growth. You need to fan those fires of creativity, of innovation, even if, the initial smoke seems a bit much.
Okay, fanning the fire. I like the image. It sounds good. But let's be honest. It feels like it clashes directly with, well, being responsible with resources right now. If I'm not pulling them back down to earth, where exactly am I raising them to? What's the goal here?
That's a great question. And the destination, according to the source, isn't just chaos. They call it convergence.
Convergence, okay.
Yeah, you're not raising them into some fantasy land. You're raising their passion, their vision strategically until it can actually meet or converge with practical wisdom, with the structural support the leadership provides. It's like bringing 2 forces together that were previously separate.
Okay. So it's not just bigger dreamer. It's providing a path, like an upward path, so their ambition actually connects with what's possible, with capability.
Exactly right. And the claim the author makes here is, well, it's pretty bold. They say when you actually achieve this convergence, you unleash what they call a powerhouse of potential.
Oh, powerhouse of potential. Sounds big.
It is. They're not just talking about making a slightly better product. The argument is that this fusion, this mix of really out there vision and discipline-supported execution, it can fundamentally change an organization. And, they actually use the phrase change the world.
Wow. Yeah.
The reason it's rare, they argue, is it just takes patience. It takes strategic investment. And frankly, our current organizational cultures often, well, they don't reward that kind of long-term thinking.
That makes a lot of sense. You're trying to leverage passion, right? And if you stifle that, it's gone. It doesn't really come back. But okay, leveraging passion needs structure. So rule #110 sounds great, but how do we actually do it? We need the how-to, the blueprint for creating that convergence environment.
Absolutely. And that's where the 3 specific methods come in. It starts fundamentally with giving the dreamer the room they need. The space to even begin turning that big vision into something, well, something testable.
Right. Which I guess brings us to way #1, provide autonomy and ownership. Let's call this one the freedom.
Exactly, the freedom. The specific action seems simple on the surface.
Hmm.
Give these dreamers the freedom to really pursue their ideas, their passions. But, and the source is really clear on this is where a lot of leaders mess it up right at the start.
How so?
They give freedom, but they actually mistake it for neglect. They sort of set them loose without a net.
Oh, I see that immediately. Yeah. You say, go chase your vision.
Yeah.
But then you don't check in. You don't allocate any real resources, maybe not even dedicated time.
Right. And that autonomy, it quickly turns into isolation. They hit the first big wall, realize they don't have the clout or the cash or the connections inside the org to get past it.
And the dream just fizzles out,
Yeah.
alone in a corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so how does the source say to prevent that?
It really stresses that this freedom must be paired with visible proportional support. You have to make sure they actually get the necessary resources. And that could be anything, right? Seed funding, maybe protected time away from regular duties, access to certain labs or data, whatever they genuinely need to have a shot at succeeding.
So the leader's role isn't to micromanage the project.
No, definitely not. It's more about providing that safety net of resources and, crucially, signaling commitment. Showing the organization and the dreamer that this isn't just lip service, autonomy without resources. That's just setting up your most imaginative person for failure. Guaranteed failure, really.
That signal of commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feels key. But, okay, let's coach this. What if the idea is genuinely, well, nuts? We're talking about super creative people. Some ideas might literally defy physics or have absolutely no market anyone can see. How do you stop just pouring resources into something that's beautiful, but ultimately a dead end, a fantasy?
And that challenge, that very real risk, leads us straight into the second strategy. It's designed to be the counterbalance, the necessary partner to weigh one's freedom.
Okay, makes sense. So, way two, offer guidance and mentorship. This must be the wisdom part.
That's it, the wisdom. The action here is pairing these dreamers with experienced mentors. But, and this is really critical, we need to be super precise about what that mentor is for. The mentor is not just another gatekeeper. Their job isn't to give a thumbs up or thumbs down on the vision itself, no. Their role is to offer guidance, share wisdom about navigating the organization. You know, the politics, the pitfalls, and, most importantly, provide constructive feedback.
Constructive feedback focused on.
Focus solely on refining the idea's path. How can we make this more viable? How can we test the core assumption? What's the smartest first step? It's about shaping, not shutting down.
Okay. That distinction feels huge. Refining, not restraining. Because if the mentor just comes in and says, nope, that won't work, we tried something like that 5 years ago, that's just restraint, isn't it?
Exactly. That kills it.
But if they say, okay, that exact version won't work yet because of X and Y, but what if you frame the first phase like this? Focus on proving this specific piece, then maybe you could unlock the resources for the next stage. That's totally different. That's refining.
You nailed it. The mentor becomes that living bridge connecting the dreamer's raw passion with the organization's need for, well, practicality. They help the dreamer see those hurdles, the technical challenges, the budget fights, the bureaucratic hoops, not as stop signs, but as problems to be solved.
So it's like that reality check we talked about at the start.
Yeah.
Instead of a sudden slap in the face, it's delivered gradually, constructively, through the mentor. It avoids that painful wake-up call by framing the obstacles as navigable challenges.
Precisely. It's a softer landing. It respects the dream while introducing the constraints in a way that feels empowering, not deflating.
So the mentor helps keep the big vision alive, but teaches the dreamer how to break it down, how to translate that grand ambition into a series of steps that are actually achievable that you can justify funding for.
Exactly. Teaching them the language of implementation, you could say.
Yeah.
Now, this combination, freedom plus wisdom, autonomy plus guidance, is powerful, really powerful. But it still depends heavily on the soil it's planted in. The overall culture, meaning you need an organizational environment, a whole mindset that actually sees experimentation not just as a line item cost, but as a strategic investment.
Okay, yeah. Which sounds like it leads us right into the third essential piece of this puzzle.
It does. Way 3. Foster a culture of experimentation and learning. We can call this one the mindset.
The mindset.
Okay.
And the specific action here is?
It's about actively encouraging dreamers, and maybe everyone, really, to take calculated risks, to experiment with new ideas.
Okay, calculated risks. That phrase jumps out at me. After giving them all this freedom, all this mentorship, why suddenly put the brakes on with calculated? Doesn't that, I don't know, risk squashing that natural imaginative impulse we're trying to nurture?
That's a fair question,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really stifle the impulse. It's more about directing the energy effectively. Think about it. If you let a super passionate visionary person take completely uncalculated risks, huge swings with no safety net, well, you risk burning out the organization. You risk major financial hits.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
The source emphasizes that a key purpose of Way 2, the guidance part, the mentorship, is actually to help the dreamer learn how to calculate those risks. The mentor helps them think through, what are we testing? What does success look like? What does failure look like? And crucially, what's the acceptable cost if this particular experiment doesn't pan out?
Ah, okay. So the mentor helps define the boundaries of the experiment before it launches.
Yeah.
They help figure out what's a smart bet versus just a wild gamble.
Precisely.
That feels like maybe the hardest part to actually implement, though.
Yeah.
Especially in big companies where, middle managers are often judged on hitting targets perfectly, flawless execution. The whole culture can fight against the idea that sometimes failing is actually learning.
It absolutely does fight against it. That cultural inertia is real. But the source argues that the huge benefit, the payoff for pushing through that inertia and establishing this mindset is resilience, developing resilience and adaptability.
Oh,
Because when an experiment fails, and some inevitably will if you're pushing boundaries, the dreamer and the organization needs to see it not as, oh, that idea was bad or that person failed. They need to see it as vital data, input for the next iteration.
okay.
By making it okay to fail, provided the risk was genuinely thought through, it was calculated that you build that muscle. You institutionalize the idea that sometimes failure is just the tuition fee for groundbreaking innovation. In fact, the source implies if your dreamers aren't failing occasionally, they're probably not pushing hard enough. They're not experimenting enough to get to that truly transformative potential.
Right. They're playing it too safe, even within this framework.
Exactly.
Okay. So that's where the convergence really happens then, isn't it? The passion keeps going, even when things hit a snag, because the whole system, the autonomy, the guidance, the culture is designed to support that process, to catch them, to help them learn from it.
That's the idea. Freedom, wisdom, mindset, working together.
This deep dive, it really has laid out a concrete path for leaders, hasn't it? So for you, the listener, you should now have that core knowledge. Rule #110, the absolute importance of raising dreamers up, not just waking them up with a dose of cold reality. And we've unpacked the 3 pillars that make it actually possible. Giving them autonomy, that's the freedom.
Providing expert guidance, the wisdom.
And fostering a culture of experimentation, the mindset. It feels like a really strategic way to handle those visionary employees, making sure their incredible energy actually benefits the organization without, inviting total chaos or reckless spending.
Definitely. And that leaves you, our listener, with a final thought to maybe chew on as you think about how to apply this. A provocative question.
But let's hear it.
If the main goal here, according to the source, is getting that dreamer's passion to converge with practical reality, and Way 3 specifically pushes for calculated risks, what actual objective process or what kind of frame of reference does a leader need to create to define and measure what calculated even means for a super passionate, highly imaginative person? How do you quantify an acceptable risk level when the person taking the risk might, by their very nature, see almost no limits? And maybe even more importantly, how do you teach them to use that calculation process themselves independently? What specific framework would you put in place in your organization to actually govern that calculation? Something to think about.